everyone, it's Lynnea for Sassy and Crafty. I have a really fun video to share with you today. This card that I made today is completely my style. I make clean and simple cards, but I like to bring something to them that makes them just a little bit special, just a little bit of flair. So I'm using a couple of products from Sassy and Crafty. I'll be using the Love Your Look stamp set and the Cityscape 2-pack stencils. I love these stencils. It's a 2-pack of stencils, but you're going to get 4 different cityscapes because each one has a different scene on the top and on the bottom. I'll be using the one with the Eiffel Tower. I wanted to create a cute little love scene. I'm going to spray the back of my stencil with some pixie spray. This is just a temporary adhesive spray that's going to help my stencil from peeling up and from moving. Now, you'll see as I create my card that I do have a little bit of lifting on my stencil, but that's because I'm going to be watercoloring over my stencil. If you're using ink blending, the pixie spray helps a lot with keeping your stencil in place. Now let's go ahead and get started. I have some cold press watercolor cardstock, nothing super fancy. I'm just going to temporarily adhere that onto my work surface and use the grid lines on my mat to get this Cityscape stencil lined up perfectly. Then I like to turn it over and use a brayer to really press that stencil and the pixie spray onto my cardstock. This is going to ensure that that stencil doesn't move and really get better pressure than I could with just my hands. I have some clean water, I have a size 8 round brush, and I have my Shimmer watercolors, and I'm just going to start coloring here. The colors will be light at first, but I'll come in and do a second coat to deepen the color. At first I thought I would just use the primary colors, so a pink, a yellow, and a blue, but I did end up going back in, and you'll see as I paint and color a little bit, I end up going back in and kind of helping the colors blend a little bit by adding in my secondary colors, my purple, green, and orange. But all I'm doing is just picking up some of my Shimmer watercolors and just dropping in the color. I wanted this to kind of have a blooming effect, so I'm keeping the lines uneven, keeping all the watercolor uneven as well. I'm just kind of keeping everything loose and free. And you can see here that I'm going back in. I just dropped in some green, and now I'll drop in some orange, and really just picking up some color with my water and just dropping it in. I am being sure to watercolor over where the bottom of the stencil is so I get that nice silhouette effect. But because I'm using water, it's going to react with the pixie spray a little bit and cause my stencil to lift up. So you'll see some areas where I got some bleeding, but really it wasn't that bad, and I'll show you how I fix them once I'm done coloring. I'm just going to keep on going here. I decided to do the other half of the rainbow over towards the left, so I'm going to start with some purple. I realized after I gave my watercolors some help by adding in the orange and the green on the right side, I thought that I would just go ahead and just add the purple right off the bat. Then I'll go into my darker blue and a lighter blue as well, and just kind of continue that rainbow. I love having rainbows in my background, especially when you have a silhouette stencil like this. It really makes the stencil shine, and it brings a lot of color and happiness to the background. So again, nothing super fancy here. You can see that my stencil is kind of starting to lift, so that was my indication that I needed to take a break, let my first coat of watercolors dry, and once it was dry, I came back in with a second coat of color. I did help my watercolor along a little bit with my heat tool, but adding the heat really caused my stencil to lift, so I ended up respraying, tacking that down again, and then coming in with a second coat of paints, and you can see here how vivid those colors are. And these are Shimmer watercolors, but because the color was wet, I found that the camera was picking up the wet of the watercolor rather than the shimmer. So I'm going to go ahead and dry this with my heat tool. And once it's all done, check out the shimmer in the background. So I think it's a really great idea to use your other products that you may not think to use with watercolors, or with your stencils like watercolors. And you can use just regular watercolors and maybe add some perfect pearls or something over them to bring in that shimmer. Now, I did have a bit of stencil bleeding, so I'm just going to take my white gel pen and cover that up. I let that dry, and then I did come in with a second coat, but it ended up not being a huge issue in the end because my stamped image actually covered up where the blob of pink came in. Let's go ahead and do some stamping and coloring. I'm grabbing the Love Your Looks stamp set. I am definitely a cat lover more than a dog lover. It's not that I don't love dogs, it's just that I love cats. So I'm taking this cute little image of the kitties together, and there's this little speech bubble above the cat. And so I decided to just take a black marker that's Copic friendly and draw a little heart inside that speech or thought bubble. And I thought that was just a cute little thing to have in my image. I'm going to do some Copic coloring. I'm sorry, it seems as if my marker caps are off to the left just a little bit too much, but I'll tell you the colors that I'm using. So for my gray cat, I'm using C7 as my dark color, and I'm just adding some lines and shadows where I think there will be darker areas of the image, just a little bit of that C7. Then I came in with C5 and kind of extended those shadows a little bit more. This marker here is C3, and this is where I'm going to start kind of branching out into the body of the cat. Then I came in with C2, and again, just pulling out those shadows just a little bit more, kind of coming in towards the center of the body. And then I'll come in with C0, and this will be my marker that I color all over the image with, blending all of those colors together to create my cute little gray kitty. For the ears and for the nose, I used one of my favorite paint combinations. I used R85, 83, and 81, and I used that for the cheeks on the kitties as well, and for the heart in that little thought bubble on the kitty on the right. The other cat, I thought that maybe I would do this kind of a honey brown color, so I'll be using my YR markers. So this first one here, my darkest, is YR27, and I'm just repeating the same process, adding just a little bit of color where I think there should be dark areas or shadows on the cat. Then I'll come in with YR24 and pull those shadows out a little bit. And then I'll repeat with YR23, 20, and YR00. Again, just easy Copic coloring, starting with my darkest, then going into my medium colors, and then into my lightest. There are so many ways to color with markers and with pencils, and you could even watercolor these images. I really encourage you to use whatever products you already have in your craft room and to use them how you are most comfortable. So if you're most comfortable starting light to dark, I encourage you to color that way. If you're like me and you like the look of having that darker marker really create those shadows, then maybe try starting with the darkest marker and going towards your lighter as I do. But really, whatever you have in your craft room will work to color in these cute little images. Now I have a quick tip for you. I like to stamp my image once with a Copic Safe ink, color it in, and then I get really crisp and clear black lines by keeping my stamp right in my MISTI where I had it originally and stamping over it again with a super dark pigment ink. So that's what I did. I stamped my image once, kept the image in my MISTI, colored up these cute kitties, and then I'm going to go ahead and stamp again with a super dark black pigment ink, and that's how I get the lines on my images to be so bright and crisp. Now my watercolor background is dry, and it's time to go ahead and just finish up assembling the card. I stamped a sentiment that says, "You're my favorite." It's just a cute little pun, and I'm just going to add some foam squares onto the back of my cat. I'm using foam squares that are a little bit thicker than traditional foam squares. I like to have even more dimension on my cards when I'm doing a simple finishing touch like these little cats on top of my pretty background. So I'll just add that sentiment strip towards the bottom, put the kitties on top, and this clean and simple card is finished. I love to bring you guys simple designs that you can easily take and recreate with products that you already have in your craft room. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that this project inspires you to use some watercolors with your Sassy and Crafty stencils. I will see you next time. Bye! Thank you again very much for watching this video. If you liked this video and you'd like to see more from me, please hit that subscribe button that is on the screen now. And here are a few other videos that I thought you might enjoy.